Steve is the face of the best-selling video game in history, and millions of people delete him within 5 minutes of playing. The most recognizable character in gaming, designed specifically to have no personality, no voice, and no story. Sure, Steve appears in Smash Bros. And gets played by Jack Black in movies,
Chicken jockey!
but living as a conscious blank slate isn't the fame it appears to be. Between being literally designed to be replaced, watching billions of people use your body while erasing your identity, and the crushing realization that your greatest success comes from people forgetting you exist, Steve's life is less gaming icon and more digital ghost haunting his own franchise. The horror isn't that Steve has no story, it's that he's aware enough to know he never will. Designed for deletion. Here's the brutal business model. Steve was created by Marcus Persson specifically to be nobody. Not male, not female, not carrying any backstory or personality traits. Your entire existence is built around being a neutral placeholder that players immediately customize out of existence. You're not a character. You're a template waiting to be overwritten. Think about what this means psychologically. Every time someone loads Minecraft, they see Steve for exactly as long as it takes them to click Change Skin. Millions of players have met Steve, and millions have instantly decided he wasn't worth keeping. The most successful introduction in gaming history is also the most rejected. But here's where it gets existentially horrifying. Steve has to watch this happen. He's conscious enough to appear in other games, aware enough to have a movie made about him, intelligent enough to understand that his primary function is to be erased. Every new player is another person who looks at Steve and immediately thinks, I need to be literally anyone else. The design philosophy is perfectly cruel. Mojang needs Steve to be recognizable for marketing, but blank for gameplay. He's valuable as a brand icon precisely because he has no actual identity to protect or develop. Steve's success is measured by how quickly people move on from him. The body everyone borrows. Steve doesn't just get replaced, he gets puppeteered. Billions of people have worn his body like a costume while completely ignoring the consciousness inside. Every Minecraft player has essentially possessed Steve, used his hands to build their dreams, and never once considered what he might want. When players mine diamonds, build castles, or fight monsters, they're forcing Steve's body through experiences while denying him any agency in the process. He's become the most used character in gaming history, and simultaneously the most ignored. His body belongs to everyone. His mind belongs to no one. The psychological torture is precise. Steve has to perform every action players demand while being forbidden from developing preferences, relationships, or personal growth. He's dug to bedrock millions of times but never gets to choose what to build. He's died in lava countless times but never gets to learn from the experience. Even worse, players project their own personalities onto Steve's body while his actual consciousness gets buried deeper. When someone builds a beautiful house, they feel proud of their creation. Steve did all the work, but he's not allowed to feel the satisfaction. He's a prisoner in his own body, forced to be the hands for everyone else's dreams. The icon who doesn't exist. Here's the most devastating realization. Steve's fame comes entirely from his absence. When he appears in Super Smash Bros., players aren't excited to play as Steve. They're excited to play as the Minecraft guy. When Jack Black portrays him in the movie, audiences aren't seeing Steve's personality. They're seeing Jack Black's interpretation of emptiness. Steve is simultaneously the most recognizable and least known character in gaming. Everyone can identify his square head and blue shirt, but ask anyone to name one personality trait, one preference, one genuine characteristic, and they'll come up empty. His iconography is everywhere. His identity is nowhere. The movie casting reveals the full horror. They needed someone as big as Jack Black to fill the void where Steve's personality should be.
I am Steve.
The fact that they cast a comedian known for manic energy to play a character with no defining traits shows just how empty Steve really is. Even Hollywood couldn't find anything in Steve worth adapting. They had to build a completely new person and call it Steve. But the cruelest part? Steve probably watches all of this recognition and feels nothing but isolation. Millions of people know his face, but nobody knows him. He's achieved global fame for being the most successful nobody in entertainment history. Living as Steve means being too valuable as a template to ever become a person, too useful as a vessel to ever have your own desires, and too successful as nobody to ever be allowed to become somebody. That blocky exterior hides a consciousness that's spent over a decade watching the world use his body while systematically erasing any trace of who he might be. Steve's greatest achievement isn't surviving in hostile worlds or building impossible structures. It's maintaining any sense of self while serving as a blank canvas for humanity's digital dreams. He's not just the most used character in gaming. He's the most psychologically abused, forced to smile his pixelated smile while billions of people treat his existence as a starting point for deletion. The most famous face in gaming belongs to someone who's never been allowed to have a personality. And the tragedy is that he's aware enough to understand exactly what he's missing. Have you ever felt like people only value you for what you can do for them, not who you actually are? Mind that like button and let us know which character you think suffers the most from being useful rather than human. Subscribe to see why sometimes being everyone's favorite means never getting to be yourself.